morning in Makudi, the Benue State capital. Welcome to Daybreak Benue on Benue Television. My name is Steven Abba.
Yeah, welcome to Daybreak Benue, the Tuesday's edition. You were about saying Wednesday. You want the week to run faster than it should. I am Loretta Oko. Welcome to Daybreak Benue.
Maybe there's something I want to do, Loretta. And what is all this black thing? I was supposed to be dressed in black this morning, and I was surprised I'm seeing you in black too.
Yeah, that it shows that we are connecting.
No, we are not.
We are connecting, but you know that the weather, we're not supposed to wear something black because
actually we're not working under the sun, so the weather is not a case here. Sadly, a news reached us yesterday that some part of the Makudi rice mill market was burnt down as a result of for a yet to be ascertained cause. But let me read the detail so that we can talk about it. So traders in Moroccan rice mill Makudi are counting their losses after suffering from the incident that gutted their shop overnight. The fire, which started Sunday night, destroyed foodstuff, mainly rice, beans, and machines, shops. So according to eyewitnesses, the fire started at 10 p.m. on Sunday, destroying two main shops. Now, Loretta, we were watching it live on Sunday night. I think I joined around 11 p.m. while that was happening, and they were trying to put off the fire, but two shops went down. All the food stuff inside and the machines that the people use for their business to mill their rice and all were gutted too by the fire. And I was beginning to think, because people were posting that even the firemen that came unable to put off the fire, not because they didn't have enough water, but their machines were malfunctioning. And of course, with that size of inferno, humans can't really. In fact, it's just those machines that should do that job, because they can't get close to the fire enough to quench the fire. So I think this is a call for, of course, I think we've discussed this on this set a long time ago, concerning how we should be careful when we're at home, even when we're leaving the office, because I'm suspecting that has to do with electrical. It's my suspicion anyway, that it has to do with electrical, and that will happen because of one or two human failures here and there, or human lack of carefulness, negligence.
Yes.
So it is very important that this time, it's hot now. It's hot, and fire can easily be triggered because of the heat. So I don't really know. This is also a platform for us to say, to reach out to those persons who lost property and of course money.
Lots of money.
I remember one market burnt in, I think that should be in Nuku, and somebody said he lost over 10 million naira in the fire because he hid his cash there. So people hide their money in their shops.
In this time and age.
What
happens to our banks and all that. But this also shows that it's very important that we don't the perception most people have about money, like I want to see my money with me, I want to have it in hand and handy, and because of maybe the stress they may go through assessing the bank,
trying to assess and since they're business people,
something that you need daily. But in as much as there are hitches and difficulties in trying to make use of the bank facilities and all that, it's necessary that you do keep your money in the bank, for
very important,
for such circumstances like this. But another question that came to my mind when I heard of this is the fast or the promptness of the fire servicemen. Most of the times we've had series of situations like this where the building or something will be on fire, and then it will take them about an hour plus for them to get to the scene of the incident. And now the issue is not that they didn't get there, they got there, but they have malfunctioning. So you see, there's so many things involved, and I know that if all things being equal, they would have gotten that fire to
they have quelled it.
They have quelled it.
So and this is also talking to us, talking to the people, this is when you should be sure, be deliberate and intentional about putting off whatever that you have in your office, you have at home. When you are leaving your house, put everything off. I've said this some time ago that before now, as I'm leaving my house, I'll remove is it a cutout they call it? These three things, these three plugs that brings the light into your home. I'll remove them before I leave the house, so that completely I'm shut out from anything that has. So whenever you're talking about house burning as a result of electrical malfunctioning or something, it can't be me, because after all, there's no power coming to the house. We have to be intentional, we have to be deliberate, because this is happening now. And fire can easily be triggered during the heat. Do you know some of the forest fires we see on our news, maybe in this other parts of the world, it's as a result of heat? And there are plants that can ignite heat, a fire, by just, it's so dry, it's so hot and dry that they will explode. And anytime that happens, fire will be generated. So we should be very, very careful about how we use office appliances, and of course shop appliances, because I know most people don't even put off their light when they are leaving their offices. I've seen that severally, and that is true also of our marketplaces. So this is a call for collaboration, is a call for due diligence. It's also a call for carefulness when you are dealing with electrical appliances.
All right, and let's also look at the foodstuffs, our local foods. Reports getting to us said that we have a drop.
Yes.
In the prices of our local foods.
But
I think yes. When you go to the markets, as compared, I heard that a bag of soya beans that was about 200,000 plus has dropped down to about 50,000-60,000 naira. We have also
from
a cassava
200 to 50.
Yes, you can see the margin.
It's a good drop.
Yes, cassava, grains, corn, millet, and all that. Even rice too. So this is, for me, it's good news, because when it comes to food business, food business is the way to go.
The law of gravity actually happened on this food business. This food stuff price from 200 to 50, 60.
So it's actually dropping. It's dropping, and so I think this is a time where markets, women can leverage on this. It's time, because we don't know how I don't sound pessimistic in this regard, but things can change, as it used to. Today we hear that the thing has dropped, and then tomorrow we see it has gone back. So if you have the opportunity to cash into this period where foodstuffs the prices of foodstuffs have dropped, you will make a lot of gain. I know I'm giving them a cue.
You see, you are actually advising them to increase the price again, because by the time everybody delve into that place now and begin to hoard food, it will become expensive again.
Okay.
And let those people that are doing the business of selling food, let them do it. Let the buyers buy. Face your front. Do whatever that you are doing. Don't go and buy. Yes, so that people now see, the truth of the matter is that what is it called? Inflation, scarcity, most times they are caused by man. So now that food is dropping, we must not all sell foodstuff. We must not all farm. All we need to do is to increase capacity and increase quantity. That's all. Now let me ask you a question. This is funny anyway. They'll tell you about 70% of Nigerians are farmers. But 70% of Nigerians are farmers and people are still hungry. So is it not better to empower like 10% or 15%, so much that they can produce what the 70% cannot even produce? In a country like US, I don't know if that statistics has changed, about 5% of the people are farmers, just 5%, but they are feeding the nation and they're having surplus. So, and the government buys from the farmers. So a farmer cannot really lose. A farmer in the US cannot lose. So there are systems that have been created to take care of it. We can do the same here. We must not all farm. Just as we must not all sell. There must be something you are good at. Just face it. Face your front. You understand? So it's good news. But let us study this for the next 2 to 3 months, Loretta, before we begin to clap. No, seriously. Let us just study this because I can't remember when I actually bought those things from the market, but I'm sure this is true. But it should be studied for a few months before we can.
And I think this also will be attributed to the fall in the price of a fuel. You know, to some extent, I heard
even
it has gone down to
even that we also have to study it and wait for it. Wait for April. Wait for May before now say okay, it has dropped.
But that doesn't mean we I think let's enjoy it now that
while it lasts.
While it lasts.
Well,
let's enjoy it while it lasts. Yes.
We're enjoying it. I will be going on a short break and we'll be back to be with you soon. Please do not go away. Just join our social media handle. Please stay. Glad you're still there. Livestock production is a crucial pillar of Nigeria's agricultural sector, contributing significantly to food security, employment, and economic growth. With a large population dependent on livestock for meat, milk, eggs, and other production, the industry has the potential to drive self-sufficiency and produce reliance on imports. However, challenges such as outdated farming methods, inadequate infrastructure, climate change, and conflicts between farmers and herders have hindered its full potential. Today we want to look at how sustained growth can be established in strengthening the livestock sector to enhance national productivity, create jobs, and position Nigeria as a key player in Africa's agricultural economy. The topic this morning is the future of livestock production in Nigeria for economic growth and self-sufficiency. And our guests this morning are Dr. Aondoakaa Asambe, is the DG, Bureau of Livestock Development and Transboundary Animal Disease Control. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, viewers.
Okay, and our second guest is Dr. Terese Shadrach Akpem is the founder and chief executive officer, Devt Konect Limited.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers.
Okay, now quickly, I'll start with you.
All right.
Please, can you assess the current state of livestock production in Nigeria?
Well, as a kind of assessment, if I am to assess the current state of livestock production in Nigeria, I will put it that it's in total shambles.
Okay.
I would say so because livestock production in Nigeria today is a kind of a headache to a whole lot of us. It has caused a lot of insecurity across the country, particularly with respect to the cattle breeders. They have been a source of worry to all Nigerians. And Nigerians particularly were looking more on oil, and they forgot that something important lies here with huge potentials to explore, which is the livestock industry. It is a place where there are a lot of things that are lying there that Nigerians never turn their eyes to. So we must give kudos to the present administration at the center, led by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for graciously granting or creating a Federal Ministry of Livestock Development to chart a way forward for the country in terms of livestock development. The President created this ministry last year, July, and there's a whole lot of expectation on the ministry, particularly bringing policies that will help mitigate the crisis that the country is confronted with, the livestock, which is unsettling a lot of our population. We have a lot of people today in the IDP camps, courtesy of the crisis in the livestock sector.
Okay, you may need to lend your voice to that.
Yes, like my principal has already said, the situation is it's a really terrible one. As Africans, if we look at it at that scale, a lot of people depend on livestock production, and if you look at what data says, according to the International Livestock Research Institute, Africa is home to over 700 million livestock farmers.
Okay.
So if you look at us in the context, so if livestock farmers were a continent, we'll be the fourth largest.
Yeah.
Right. So if you narrow down to Nigeria, you place a number somewhere around 100 million. So that simply means that it's something that a lot of families and livelihoods are dependent on.
Yeah.
And because of the broken system, sometimes you wake up and just one outbreak, it wipes out your entire flock.
Yeah.
So it's a very wicked problem. It's a bad situation, and we are glad that a lot of things are, I would say, the cloud is gathering with respect to giving us a new face as far as the sector is concerned, and I'm really excited to see that Benue State is also not, standing on the sidelines as far as that is concerned.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, talking about Benue State. Let's go back to this Benue Konect Summit. Like, can you just
Benue Livestock Summit.
Yes. Summit. Yes. Yeah. Tell us, what's that all about?
Okay. So the Benue Livestock Summit is an event in itself. I didn't want to call it an event because it's more than that. It's an opportunity to centralize the livestock conversation from the point of view of Benue State to the rest of the country. And let me paint the picture. Okay. If you look at Benue as a state, in livestock production, one of the major components is feeds.
Yeah.
And in feeds, one of the major components, you find soybeans, you find maize. Benue sits comfortably as one of the largest producers for soybeans. Precisely, I think if my data is correct, in West Africa we're the largest producers.
Okay.
Yet, as of today, we don't have one commercial feed mill producing at scale. So our raw materials are moved out and feed sent back to us, right? So we are now saying that we need to be able to centralize the conversation around livestock production in a way that brings together all stakeholders. Benue, I think, it's about 46 years old. This is the first time we're holding a livestock summit in the state that is going to be bringing together the pig farmers, the poultry farmers, the fish farmers, the ruminant farmers making up goats, cattle, sheep, and all, bringing the academia, like the DG already highlighted, or we'll probably talk more to. The minister is going to be here, it speaks to the very essence and the value of what we are trying to be able to do here. So it's more than an event. It's a conversation that will turn the tide positively for the livestock sector from the lens of Benue to the rest of the country.
Okay, so let's talk about these farmers. We know that they're actually basically the rural dwellers. They're actually rural dwellers. What's the relationship like between these livestock farmers with the ministry, right? The Ministry of Livestock Ministry. How is the relationship like? How have the ministry been able to bring these people to the modern way of livestock farming?
Okay, let me start on this note. The Bureau, which I heard, is a new creation. It was created as recent as 20th of December 2024. So we are at the teething stage. We are trying to put together policies that will help us to bring relative peace at our rural dwellers. This ministry came when it came up, and I was announced as the Director General. Immediately I swung into action with my people, my team, and we've been organizing interactive session with different organizations and different stakeholders in this industry. First, I met with the Miatiala cattle breeders to know what the problem is. I met with butchers. I met with Poultry Farmers Association, Piggery, and all what have you, even the All Farmers Association. We've been able to interact. And when we looked at the challenges were a bit enormous. So we say the best thing to do, that we cannot sit on our own alone and do this. So we decided that let us put up a livestock summit where we can get all the stakeholders on the table to give us, because if we formulate our policies and take them to the people, we may not really know what the problem is at the grassroots. There is a saying that he who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. So we want to get the stakeholders on the round table. That is why we have put up this livestock summit that is just 2 days away from now. So the essence is for us to see how we can do this, how best we can do this. But by and large, the entire world is moving away from open grazing. The previous administration brought in a very beautiful law, the Open Grazing Prohibition and Establishment of Ranches. It's a good law, but the implementation is faulty. In that law, there's a provision for establishment of ranches, pilot ranches, because if you are saying there is no open grazing and you are emphasizing on ranching, the state government is the biggest player here, and is supposed to lead by example. They're supposed to build ranches so that people who are not aware of how a ranch looks like will learn from there and also try to replicate what the state has done. So that together, from the state to private individuals, we can together change the narrative from moving away from open grazing to ranching. So that aspect of the law which says we must ranch has not been implemented. You cannot just bring up about a beautiful paper and expect it to give you a result. You have to be pragmatic about it. So we as a bureau, we are looking forward to sensitize our people on the need to go into ranching. These are the modern animal husbandry practices. With ranching, people who are there, who will embrace the ranching, will also have the full benefits of their livestock investment. Because if you see those animals that are roaming about, there is a lot of waste. They waste a lot of energy walking on foot. Some walk on foot as many as 300, 400 kilometers. So it is not a good practice. And as they walk, they are encroaching on farmlands, because the population has increased over the years. So there is no space for open grazing again. So the best thing for us today is to embrace the modern animal husbandry practices, one of which is ranching of our animals.
Okay, what will you say concerning the the role of livestock in Nigeria's economy? For example, we're talking about oil. I think oil is a major thing now in Nigeria, and of course, other forms of agriculture. Let's talk about livestock particularly. How has it contributed to our economy, and is it doing enough?
You see, the huge potential that lies in the livestock industry remains untapped. Okay. But I bet you livestock in Nigeria, or Benue in particular, is capable of generating huge resources for the state and the country. There are a whole lot of value chains across the livestock sector.
Yes. Yeah.
If you start to mention them here, even if you take only poultry, the list is much. If you look at cattle, is it milk? Is it beef? Is it just mention them. Nigeria rely on export of milk. A very large quantity of milk that we consume in this country is exported. Is imported. Yeah. So, if we can decide to develop that, this milk is imported in billions. So, if that will be produced locally, imagine how the GDP of the country will look like. What of eggs? There is a policy, or the federal government policy here on the school feeding program.
Yeah.
That program is is meant that school children are supposed to be fed the right nutritional requirements they need in school. So imagine that each child from age 0 to 10 is supposed to consume an egg in a day. How many eggs will you imagine? Even Benue State, take Benue for instance, how many school children do we have from age 0 to 10? The number is huge. So people who are into that aspect of livestock production, they will make a whole lot of money, and that will have a triple effect on the state economy. Take piggery for instance. In Benue here, we are the highest consumers of pork. It is known that Benue is the highest consumer of pork across the country. But as it is now, Benue produces barely 10% of what it consumes. Most of the pork we consume in this state here, the pigs are brought from other states.
Why is it like that? What's necessary?
Because I told you that there is one aspect where our people neglected. Our people, there's a total neglect of this aspect of farming, and it's a farming where there is no season. So our people need sensitization. They need awareness to know that here there's something that is lying there that they need to tap. So it's unfortunate that when this Ministry of Livestock Development, the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development came on board, the discussion across the length and breadth of the state was that the ministry was created specifically to placate the Fulanese. We are out now to change the narrative and tell our people, give our people hope, give them a message that livestock production is not an exclusive preserve of the Fulanese. Our people can go into livestock production. Our people can compete effectively in livestock production. Our environment here, our temperature here is good. We have comparative advantage over so many states in this country in terms of farming, both crop and livestock. We produce most of the raw materials that are used in feeding livestock. But these raw materials, like the CEO of Konect has stated, they are moved out of the state, produced elsewhere, and brought in back to be sold to us at exorbitant rates. So there's a need for our people to wake up to the occasion. There's a need that we scale up our involvement in the livestock industry, so that over time we will see that the economic prosperity of our people will change drastically. When you talk of cattle, there's a whole lot to explore there. Some people can even abandon crop farming and go into grass farming. You can farm grass and export. There is demand for grass across the globe. People are looking up to Nigeria for hay and forages. So why can't we key into this to explore and get the huge potentials that are there.
All right, then quickly, I'll follow up immediately. I'm coming to you, Dr. Terese. Your bureau is just barely 6 months from my calculation, and it means you will have to craft policies, you have to make new rules. Were there anything on ground before you came? And if they were not, just let us into some of the policies you might bring out concerning livestock.
Okay, first and foremost, in planning of anything that is supposed to bring impact to the people, you have to have access to data.
Yes.
Data is a key to everything that you are doing, and is supposed to be of long-standing effect. So there is lack of data on most of the things we do in this state or across the country. We are looking forward, first of all, to conduct a livestock census.
Okay.
This livestock census will give us an insight into who owns livestock in the state. This livestock census will help us to a large extent in mitigating the crisis that we are having in this state. When this livestock census is conducted, there will be a chip that will be tagged with these animals, and these animals will be linked to their owners. Everyone that has livestock in this state will own up their own livestock. It's a digital platform where the national identification number of the owners will be linked to their own animals. The tags will be on the animals. It's a continuous process. As the animals are giving birth, the tagging continues. It's a continuous process. So when we embrace ranching eventually, if you see any animal roaming about, you don't need to go after the animal. You just need to bring out your phone and scan to know who is the owner of this animal. We go after the owner. By the time we get the owners to pay for the crimes of their animals, you will see that everybody will be careful not to allow their animals to roam about and cause problems. Livestock production is very important, as crop are equally important. So you cannot be operating a livestock business at the detriment of the crop farmers. There must be a synergy where each and every player is allowed to get the benefits of their investment. Another aspect is that we have a whole lot of this infrastructure within the state with respect to livestock production that are non-functional. Let me say so. If you look at poultry, most of the birds we consume in this state are brought in from the southwest. We are looking forward to reactivating or revitalizing the hatchery that we had in this state and encourage private investors to come in and build hatcheries. We are looking forward to scale up our production of pigs. It's at the lowest level. We are looking forward that within the shortest possible time we can bridge the gap of what is being brought in. At least let's look at it that within the next 5 years we can produce 80% of what we consume here and stop relying entirely on the pigs that are being brought in from outside.
Okay.
If you look at our goats here, what we have is the West African dwarf goat. The live weight is barely 45 kg or 50 kg at most. There are giant breeds of goats that you can have the live weight as much as 100 kg or more. We are looking forward to bringing in those giant breeds of goat to improve on what we have here. If you look at cattle, these white Fulanese that are roaming about here, their production in terms of milk production is very low compared to other breeds of cattle that we have. In that aspect also, we are looking forward to encouraging breeds improvement. in pigs, there's so much hope, because the former governor of Benue State, Governor Gabriel Suswam, had brought in improved breeds of pigs here: the Duroc, the large white, and the land race. Though our people have not fully embraced that to get the maximum benefit from it. So we will still encourage our people to go encourage a lot of small-scale farming, so that over the years, within the period of 5 years, we are looking forward to turning the tides and then improving on the livelihoods of our people. We have a whole lot of young people out there that are jobless. We will encourage them
to connect with other bodies and private individuals. Is there any other way the government at the central and also in Benue State can address such issue? That's one. And then secondly, factoring in the climate change, because I know that's also another issue. How can that also be addressed?
Yes, so the DG said something very fundamental around the infrastructure gap. You see, every system is run by people. So if you build a system that you do not also improve the efficiency of people, whether it's in terms of connectivity or even empowering them with the needed resources, we are still back to zero. First, we actually have a huge gap in terms of animal owner or livestock farmer animal health professional gap. In Nigeria, we if you look at the data, we have somewhere around 12,000 plus veterinary doctors. If you run those numbers on this approved standard of ratio of professionals to animal livestock farmers, it's somewhere around 2,500 animal livestock farmers to one professional. With the numbers now, we're talking somewhere around 70,000 professional animals to one professional. It's a huge gap that needs covering. It's not very practical to say maybe facilities will be built across board in one day, but that is a sustainable way to go, like DJ has mentioned. But another way is, while we do all of that, we need to be able to amplify that impact. So this is where we're bringing in veterinary telemedicine. So part of what Konect is doing is also, there's AI, which is helping with disease prediction. There's also the ease with which we're able to communicate with SMS notifications to farmers to know best practices and all. Now, to flip into the conversation around climate change, the practice is also very, very important. DJ talked about the roaming around. It's not best practice. If you look at the gases undermining our ozone layer, after you pick carbon dioxide, the next one in line is methane. A huge chunk of methane is emitted from livestock production processes, especially for ruminants. So what we are now also saying is that when you now ranch your animals, when you're reducing the carbon footprint, you're either preventing it at all from happening. So this means you're not doing anything that will increase it. You're either reducing the volume in the air, because the thing about methane is it's even more dangerous than carbon dioxide. The only difference is it doesn't stay that long. But 10 years is a lot of time. So you are doing things that reduce the burden of it, or you're now putting in practices that, for instance, there's a way you feed your animal that will make it generate more methane. There's also a way you feed it that will reduce the volume. So these are basic practices. It's not necessarily sophisticated. So you cannot do that when animals are all over the place. But imagine a farm that has 2,000 livestock. You can be able to coordinate this process and implement it. It's difficult when they're all over the place. So in terms of climate action, it's first an awareness thing. People need to know that our activities are impacting the ecosystem. It's not just the cars that are being driven around. Then when you know, it's about being enforced. There are carbon credits now. So you need to even know that if you're able to reduce your processes to reduce the amount of carbon in the environment, you earn. So these are the things that, like DJ said, once we keep implementing them and informing people, they will now know that even by doing things the right way, I'm not only helping myself but also earning from it. So it all comes together.
But let's also talk about say something about the methane and all that, the health implication on consumers. How can you explain that? Because we need to know the effect of this, because when you talk about it, it's more like the animals themselves. But what about the consumers?
Yes, so we can also talk about the health of the livestock you have in Benue and Nigeria, at least for Benue, the state of their health.
Well, truthfully, we can't even say isolate Benue and speak about it because DG, part of his portfolio is transboundary animal disease control.
Yes.
It means that animals move across borders. Right? So, when it comes to the health condition of our animals, there's a lot to be desired, really. Right? And let me just take back a couple of steps where I talked about the preventable components and preventable livestock diseases that are a huge burden on livestock farmers. You know, there's also the layer where we talk about zoonotic diseases, so those ones that are transmitted from animals to humans. The good thing for most is that some of these things are preventable, so it means that if the animals are healthy, we don't have to even deal with that challenge. But there's even a bigger threat that is now emerging or has emerged, because the challenge of antimicrobial resistance, and what that simply means is antibiotics that are conventional now suddenly are no longer responding. You take them but they don't work. And how is this even coming about? There's a lot of abuse of antibiotics, right? People sometimes would buy drugs off the shelf, give their animals. They might not maybe notice any improvement and decide that, well, let me go and sell it. Some might even give but will not obey the withdrawal period. So you innocently go to the market, you buy the fish, you buy the chicken, you buy the goat or whatever, you go and eat. You have a couple of these deposits left in you. Few months down the line, you get sick, you go, they test, and maybe out of 30 antibiotics, you're resistant to all of them. Last year alone, 700,000 people across Africa died from this. Nigeria is a hotspot. So you see that it's a big chain that the professional sits in the center of. So we are ensuring that
we'll be going on a short break. Please do stay with us, do not go away. Join our social media handle as we go on a short break. Do stay.
In this hall are heads of ministries, departments and agencies in Benue State, including representatives of the private sector, selected as members of a technical working group for the Benue Industrial Parks project. This group is to operate with the theme, driving industrialization for economic growth and sustainable development, which is in line with Governor Hyacinth Alia's pillars of agriculture and rural development, commerce and industry, human capital and social development. The government of Father Hyacinth Alia envisions the parks as integral hubs for agro-industrialization that will significantly boost the state's agricultural productivity, create jobs, and improve the livelihoods of local communities. Represented by his Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Michael Gleba, Governor Alia explains formation of the working group to encourage multi-sectoral conversations championed by himself for effective development of Benue State.
These industrial parks will have, of course, because we're an agrarian state, it will lean heavily towards agriculture, so agri-processing and all the activities around agriculture. So this is expected to kickstart, stimulate economic growth and development, and improve all the indices for which states are known for, which include employment, quality of life, GDP, and all that.
The Executive Secretary of Benue Investment Promotion Agency, BENIPA, Mr. John Paul Akpem, is spearheading this development agenda. Mr. Akpem says the industrial parks are safe spaces that cluster infrastructure which allows for enterprises to set up shops to ensure production even at the local communities. The intention, he has, is to provide employment and boost internally generated revenue.
And industrialization is not a happenstance thing. It's something that must be deliberate. It happens through careful thinking, careful planning, and eventually brings forward the results that are expected. There's a gamut of activities from policy reforms, through active promotion of investments, through development of blueprints for that. So what you have seen happen here today is the inauguration of the technical working group that would, first of all, that draws members from across different sectors. The goal is to be able to bring their specialties to the table in the development of the master plan, the industrialization master plan, the blueprint that will enable His Excellency implement his vision for industrializing Benue State through establishment of industrial parks.
Heads of ministries, departments and agencies in the state and the private sector who form part of the group, in various good messages, pledge commitment and support for the success of the project. Emmanuel.
Welcome back. This is Devt Benue on Benue Television. We've been raising conversations on the future of livestock production in Nigeria for economic growth and self-sufficiency. Dr. Terese has been talking about the health implication of methane and of course the health, the state of health of our livestock. So please, you can continue.
Right. I want us to look at the methane gas or health thing from a very broader perspective. Okay. We talk of the concept of One Health, which takes account the environment, takes account the humans, takes account the animals. To say that one activity can be able to spiral and impact across board. Methane is a gas.
Yes.
So when it's released, like I said, in hierarchy of what depletes our ozone, you pick out CO2, you call it next. So it naturally means that this is the damage it's doing. But I mean, if no one inhales methane, if you go to a poultry, and you're picking up that gas, the next thing you're saying, why haven't they cleaned this place in such a long time? So it's not even healthy to ourselves. But aside from that, it's even the damage it does in the environment. We know what the weather is now. We are praying for the rains to come. So that's the extent to which this is having damage directly to us if you're in close proximity, and to the grander scale. Then I was almost landing with respect to the component on the impact of health, where I said that if animals are not in good health, that's why I said we cannot just pick Benue in isolation. It's a broader picture, right? If you go to when DG was doing the tour, the sites in slaughterhouses, there are a lot of indiscriminate things that happen. Animals die, the next thing they want to sell. We can't even trace the animals we are consuming. So it's a long chain that we need to be able to address. So one thing I will advise is for us to be more responsible, both at the level of production and even consumption. As a lot of these policies kick in, it's going to be easy. For instance, you take a cattle to go or a cow to go and slaughter you cannot also slaughter it randomly. It's supposed to slaughter in a slaughterhouse. It's going to have a tag. So which means if you bring an animal without a tag, it's either going to be confiscated or you'll be arrested, because where did he get it from?
Spoke about.
Exactly. Okay. So this is how everything connects back, and this we're not even saying we're reinventing the wheel, because it's happening elsewhere. So when you do that, the system is more accountable. Before you produce, you know that there's an established market. A lot of eateries in Benue State, they don't patronize the local producers, and we have a lot of smallholder farmers. They finish raising their birds and they are at the mercy of some middlemen. I won't say all middlemen, but some, right? But a system that can, guarantee offtake. The powdered milk we take in Nigeria is the excess of the quota that some European countries are giving to their people to produce, that they send to us. So we can implement that, because we need to strengthen our local economy before we talk about anything else. So that's how it all adds together.
All right, Dr. Asambe, right? Let's look at successful livestock production models, in other countries, and how can Nigeria leverage, or will I say, take a cue from those models to see how we can improve our own livestock production.
Okay. With the coming on board of the Federal Minister of Livestock Development, Nigeria did not waste time and has already swung into action to look at other models that they can replicate it in the country. The president himself visited Brazil, and Brazil is one of the top countries in the world that is there in the livestock industry. The Brazilian investors have come to Nigeria. They are still here, visiting states to know where and where to situate their investment, so that Nigeria can also learn from their models. France have been here. There are a whole lot of countries that Nigeria is trying to partner with to develop this livestock industry. So far, Nigeria is moving to the right spot.
And do you think Nigeria has this potential for livestock production and products to export? Do we just in Nigeria having that potential?
It's a very
in let's say in the nearest 4-5 years. Let's put it at that.
Yes, if the right steps are taken, like we have started engaging other countries where they are advanced in livestock production. So if the people, the Nigerians embrace those practices, and we do it the right way that we are supposed to do, the huge potential lies ahead of us. Nigeria can export, yes. Even in terms of hay production, if we can decide to go into hay production now, I bet you before the end of the year we have something to export. because the environment here is very conducive for a whole lot of things to happen. So, in terms of export, I say yes. There are potentials for Nigeria to export if we take the right step.
All right. You spoke about challenges like in passing, the challenges dealing the livestock sector. But I also want you to talk about insecurity, because I know that has been the major challenge, particularly in Nigeria and even here in Benue State. What are the ways you think that this can be addressed to ensure that the livestock production actually see the light of day?
Well, first of all, like I said earlier, the major problem we are having here that is causing insecurity is the encroachment of these animals on crop farms. So, we are engaging these people, and first of all, I mentioned passively here that we have to embrace ranching. First, we have to tame our animals, put them in enclosure, and then feed them from there. So, if we embrace ranching, 80% of our insecurity that comes from this livestock business will be reduced. Secondly, I talked about livestock census here and tagging. If we do this livestock census and the tagging, it will reduce drastically the issue of animal rustling, those that go about stealing. You can hear that somewhere, sometimes, most time, when there are these insecurity issues, the herders will say the animals have been rustled. With this tagging, animals can be traced, because the chip that is part of the tagging
is the chip inside the animal or is hanging on its body? Because if it's hanging on its body, a rustler can easily do away with it. But if it is hidden inside the body of the animal, the rustler might not even know if the livestock is carrying it in itself. That could be traced. So I need you to clarify this for us.
You see, part of it is embedded.
Okay.
And part of it is hanging.
All right.
The part that is hanging, that is where you can scan and get it.
Okay.
So if Nigeria as a country embrace this livestock identification and traceability system and conduct this livestock census and tag our animals, there will be nowhere for rustlers to operate. You can't, if you take an animal from Benue to Nasarawa State here, for instance, you have to show the record how you got it from Benue. It can be traced back to Benue. If you see a tag from Sokoto, you should know that this animal is from Sokoto. If you see a tag from Benue, you should know that this animal is from Benue. So it makes it difficult for rustlers to operate. So the livestock census will solve a whole lot of insecurity issues that we are having today.
Sorry, let's go back to that ranching. You know, some persons have come out to say, well, why it's seeming difficult to embrace ranching is because of it's quite expensive to ranch. And when you look at some of these livestock farmers, as you call them, they barely have the means to ranch. Is there any way, or is there something that the government can do, like maybe give incentives to see how they can help these farmers to ranch? Because I know ranching is not just building four corner walls for your cattle. It involves more than that. There are other things involved. It's capital intensive. So I think that's one of the issues why some persons are finding it difficult to ranch. So is there any way the government is mitigating to ensure that people actually embrace this by giving them a platform for them to start or to kickstart ranching?
Okay, let me correct one impression. These cattle you see them roaming about, they are not owned by poor people. Yes.
For a fact.
The Fulanis you see them moving about with these cattle, 90% of them are not the owners of those cattle.
Yeah.
There are some big men somewhere that own those cattle. They have the resources to build modular ranches to ranch their animals. So the insecurity in this country, I'm telling you, is caused by our elites who own these cattle. So if the federal government can help us enforce this. These people that have these cattle have the resources to build modular ranches to ranch their animals. It's doable. They are operating like this because they see that Nigeria is a country where anything can happen. But if we can sit up and decide that who wants to end this, I bet you we'll end it in less than 5 years.
Okay, so how does the average man, woman in a rural area who has something to ranch, how do they come in? Because from the question she's asking, from the picture I'm painting in my head, it's like, if you are not a millionaire, you cannot have a ranch. But then, the woman in the village wants to keep something. The man in a rural area wants to keep something. So how has the government brought these people so that everybody be included?
Well, you see, ranch has different aspects of. If you're looking at saying ranching animals,
yes,
it mustn't. Each ranch mustn't be as sophisticated as what we are looking at.
Okay.
By restraining your animals, it means you have ranched them.
Restraining, you need to explain the restraining pattern, because
okay, if you have a room here, for instance, and you have, let's say, 20 goats,
okay,
you decide to construct an enclosure here and keep your animals there. You don't allow them to go out to cause problems to crop farmers. You have already ranched your animal. So it depends on how you are looking at it. I emphasize here about cattle because that is the biggest challenge that we are having.
Yeah.
But when you talk of, we have people that have pigs, they don't allow those pigs to go out. They are in an enclosure. The implication is that those pigs are already ranched. If you put your birds in a poultry pen, you don't allow your birds to go out of the poultry pen. The birds are already ranched. So the ranching is a technical word. So it depends on from the angle you are looking at it.
All right, that is interesting. Will quickly tell us, we can't be in this alone. We may need foreign partners and all. How do we attract that? Of course, we're going to learn your voice later when he's done, but I want to start from him. How do we attract foreign investors to become part of this?
Part of it is simply highlighting the potential that is inherent, and in our immediate future is the summit, which is coming up to serve a dual purpose of opening to the Benue people the opportunities that are available in the livestock sector. DJ said something very fundamental, that livestock farming is both in and out of season. Any day you wake up and you are able to buy a few chickens, you can have an enclosure where you keep them. But if you compare that to crops, and in time like this, you need to irrigate. So you see that it's even more intensive when you break it down to unit economics. So then there are those who are coming from outside to also come and understand. In fact, yesterday I got a call from a company in Lagos that, they saw the publicity about the Livestock Summit. They would want to come and learn. That I am quoting what the person said literally. So they are flying down 3 staff, no plan to exhibit. They want to come and learn. So that is about what we are also trying to communicate, and then so that many people also understand that this livestock thing, the chain is so long that we cannot even begin to exhaust it. So we will do our part to keep, preaching that gospel that Benue is ripe and ready for investment. Imagine siting up a mega hatchery in Benue State that services the north. Imagine having an industry here producing. I got a senior friend shared a very exciting news headline about a livestock company that has recorded in excess of 1.2 billion naira in revenue. In profit, in the last 1 year. They produce feeds. Imagine citing that here when your soybeans and maize are just in the backyard, and the multiplier effect it will have on people when you think about how much we have to produce to do that. So it's just to keep driving awareness. And then encouraging, and of course the DG is on the part of government to government to provide incentives that excite investors to come in, because we need to look at the bigger picture, which is the farmer, whether crop or livestock, because it all comes together.
Okay, so please lend your voice to that.
Let me get a
concerning how to attract foreign partners, investors because we can't be in this alone, and there's always something to learn too. So how do we attract foreign investors?
By the mere pronouncement by the president last year, July, investors on their own saw that Nigeria is a destination for livestock, and they started indicating interest. They are trooping in their large numbers because Nigeria was already a place they were looking up to open up their borders for livestock investment. So the opportunities of us having foreign investors is quite unlimited. They are coming in, they are trooping in their large numbers. If you have been following in the news, like I said earlier, the Brazilian investors have come. France have been talking with Nigeria. Argentina, they are in talk to find a place here where they can invest. They have been visiting states, they have been coming in. The Presidential Livestock Reform Implementation Committee have been trying to engage a lot of foreign investors to bring in. You see, the president started this with the forming of a committee, a Presidential Committee on Livestock Reform Implementation. So the creation of the Ministry of Livestock Development is part of the recommendation of that Presidential Committee. So they have been helping the president to drive a whole lot of policies and then look at where they can get investors to come into the country. Part of their mandate is to visit some of these countries that are top on the ladder of livestock industry to get them to invest in Nigeria. And I think so far they are doing a wonderful job. So getting foreign investors to come here has been their business, and they are there driving it every now and then.
Okay, how do we bring women and the youth into this? For example, I think it is either Uganda or Kenya, I can't remember again, one of these East African countries. They'll give a cow to a family, or particularly women. So by the time they harvest it, or they get milk from the cow, the family feeds on it and they are asked to sell. If you can't sell, the government becomes the off-taker. So are there such plans on ground so that everybody is involved? This is all you are trying to do, inclusivity. Everybody is involved, the women and the youth especially, so that they can have some source of income, sustainable source of income. Is there anything like trying to involve women and the youth?
You see, personally,
yes,
I have a bias for pigs.
Okay.
As a team man, we cherish pig. Even some of our cultural engagement, there must be a pig.
Yeah.
For instance, when you want to marry in Tib land, you must bring a pig. It's part of our marriage rights. So when I came in, I drafted a proposal on how we can empower young graduates and women.
Okay.
The emphasis was on this.
Okay.
We want to get small holder farmers, particularly in the area of piggery. And our proposal was directly targeting women and the young graduates. So it's a plan that is there in the pipeline. Okay. We have been trying to source for financing. I've been making a whole lot of engagement and travels so that we can get interventions and even partners that will help us to impact the lives of our young people and women. So the governor is also deliberate about getting women involved and the youth in this livestock sector. So by and large, our focus is on this set of people that you mentioned.
You know, sorry, you made mention of funding because, you know, most of the times when we have guests like this and we raise conversations concerning projects and all that, one of the issues will be funding, how to fund this, and how do you also think in that light that funding will be a major issue to actualize some of these proposals and all the things you have in the pipeline for the livestock sector?
Yes, funding will always be an issue, but there are some hanging fruits in terms of funding that we are pursuing vigorously to see that Benue plug those hanging fruits for our people to utilize. There are a whole lot of hanging fruits out there. That since when I came on board, I've been making efforts to reach out and then try to open the vista so that Benue can tap into those other funding that were there already. But because the state was not interested in livestock, they were not ready to pursue this funding. So now that we want to change the narrative, we are going after those funding. We want to get them and get the state to benefit from them. So we'll try our best.
Okay, I'm going to ask the Dr. Terese. I don't really know if you have answers to this, but do we have anything on ground that has to do with maybe crossbreeding, and taking the most important or veritable gene of one, and I'm asking this question particularly because I know there is a particular cow that is peculiar to Benue, especially the Tiv nation, the Muturu. Yes. So is there anything we are planning towards that, so that it becomes? You spoke about how that pig is like a cultural thing, so that anywhere you see Muturu, you say that is a Benue. Is there any plan to begin to produce more of that, so that it becomes particular to Benue in terms of sales and otherwise? Because I learned that it is meatier, it is stronger, and it's tastier than most of the variety that we have. Of course, I know he's going to lend his voice to that.
Yes, I was going to literally pass it to him. But just what I would say is the simple answer is yes. Another thing is to also say it's a very patient process. You see, when it comes to breed improvement, it's what it is. It's a patient process, and you need to also know exactly what you're looking for. Are you trying to get the advantage of meat? Are you trying to get the advantage of milk? Are you trying to make this more? For instance, over the years we have heard, animals imported into the country. If you do not create the environment that supports it here, you're going to have issues, and that's why the world in itself is also doing so much to tilt to picking some of these genetic components. So instead of importing an entire animal, right, you can target some of the genes that you're looking out for, or sometimes even just get the entire semen of the male. Then you come and then you do what we call artificial insemination, right? So and then you just keep improving the process that way. So you can compare the cost of bringing in a straw of semen versus an entirely live animal. And if you look through Benue's history, to some of the infrastructure that exists, some of them were set up to focus on, I'm talking Benue now precisely, breed improvement. And across the country, I think in Kaduna we have some of these facilities. So it's something that is in play. We just need to be able to be very dedicated to the process and follow it through, clearly saying, okay, what are we looking to achieve at the end of the day? But like I said, I'll pass it to the DG.
Okay. In terms of breed improvement, I hope that your question is around there. Yes, I would say yes. There are some facilities in the state here that particularly focused on breed improvement. There is a federal government agency that is called NAPRI. Their work basically is for breed improvement. But why these places are not pronounced? NAPRI has an office in Otoko here. But why these agencies are not that much pronounced was that the satellite was not on livestock. In fact, at a point, it was viewed as a crime in this state for anyone trying to engage in some livestock ventures. Because there was a very negative publicity about it, going by the insecurity that these livestock activities was bringing to our doorsteps. Even on the part of Benue State, as far back as the first civilian governor of Benue State set up a place at the border between Gwe West and Gwe East that is called a breeding center. It's moribund though, but we still have some improved breeds of cattle that are there, that have been worked on in Benue here. If you see them, you will appreciate them. They look good. Last month, I visited the Minister of Livestock Development, and I did a compilation of all this livestock infrastructure that we have in these states that have gone moribund, requesting that the federal government should help and bring an intervention where these places can be resuscitated and then put them to good use. Developing the livestock industry is a whole lot of task, but we know that bit by bit we will achieve all that is required if the tempo is sustained over the years beyond this administration. So livestock breeding is on our agenda, both state and federal. We are looking forward to improving every breed that we have in this state that is not yielding the desired result. Some is as a result of maybe low live weight. We try to improve and have moderate to giant breeds. Some is as a result of low milk production. We'll do a crossbreeding to see how we can improve the quantity of milk that a particular animal can produce, be it goat or cattle. So by and large, we are looking at these things holistically, and we hope that with available resources, everything we put in place, and with sustainability beyond this administration, we can turn around the livestock industry for good, where people will not have regret investing in it.
Alright, we'll be going on a short break once again. Please do not go away. By now you should be on our social media handles, asking your questions, participating in this wonderful conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. This is Devt on Benue Television. We've been talking about the future of livestock production in Nigeria for economic growth and self-sufficiency. And our guest has been Dr. Aondoakaa Asambe. He's the DG, Bureau of Livestock Development and Transboundary Animal Disease Control. And of course, we have Dr. Terese Shadrach Akpem. He's the founder and Chief Executive Officer of Devt Konect Limited. Earlier, you both spoke about climate change, and anytime I hear about climate change, I know that Africa is contributing minimally to the carbon footprint. So let's talk about that a little. I know it's slightly outside what we're talking about, but of course, as I'm asking this question in my heart, the people are also asking questions. Now, do we really need to express the panic that we're expressing concerning climate change? Of course, we are on the same earth, so the one happening in the US can actually affect us. But when it comes to the I call it a serious or an unnecessary prevention technique, do we really need that kind of thing now? Because I was checking through the production of emissions in countries, and I discovered that France, US, China, I think Japan too is amongst them. It's so enormous, whatever they are contributing to the atmosphere. And Nigeria, in fact, Africa, I think South Africa is the only country that was mentioned in Africa. Yes, South Africa. And it's almost very minimal. So the panic that we express, do we really need to express that panic now? Please, the DG.
knowledgeable about the question you have thrown at me. Maybe I will pass it on.
Okay, please pass it on, because he was using some terms that indicates that he understand what I'm saying.
Yes, we need to express every sense of urgency because it's affecting us.
Okay.
You see, because you hear that houses flood in Lagos when it rains heavily.
Yes.
Does now not mean that you also not see the damage and start also taking precautions. I remember I mentioned when I was saying that when it comes to addressing the challenge of climate change, you're either preventing any further addition, reducing what is already in the system, because the thing is, whether it's carbon dioxide, whether it's methane or whatever, it goes there and is stuck. It's there for methane will stay in the atmosphere for more than a decade, 12 years. So you want to do everything possible to ensure that you don't add, whether it's an inch, if that's even the word, to it, or you want to do everything that even reduces the one that's already there, or you want to ensure that your processes do not encourage it. So while we contribute very, or maybe our contribution we might say is inconsequential. In 2004, if I remember correctly, my dad brought us to Makodi. We were in Boko then, driving across the river Benue. Everywhere was filled up. What is the story today? So it's biting. You don't need to understand the jargon of the technical terms, but you know that as of now, maybe we should have seen rains. Maybe some 10 years ago we are not. So it's expedient that we are responsible in terms of our actions, because we are feeling the impact. And while we do that, we also keep advocating, and that's why Africa, our former vice president is a heavy advocate around climate financing. And one of the things he's saying is, yes, Africa contributes very little, but the big names that are doing a lot of this damage, you need to increase your funding to, and that's why a lot of monies are now being dedicated around climate smart solutions, or solutions that really cut down on emissions. So we definitely need to pay attention because it's affecting us, not necessarily because we are a major contributor. And in doing that, so when we say people are transitioning from fossil fuels to and it's basically saying that we must not wait for the problem to meet us here. It has met us, but at even grander scales before we now say we'll resolve it.
It's okay.
Alright, I think while we talk about the climate change, and did you say he doesn't have much knowledge on that? A lot of persons actually are oblivious of this climate change. They only know that the weather, something has happened, that change and all that. But let's go back to our livestock.
Right.
You made mention of in passing also about the doctors, veterinary doctors, and now with the things on ground and the future of the livestock both in Benue State and in Nigeria in general, we are hoping and we're believing that it will scale up. There will be a scale up in that sector. Now once there's a scale up, we'll definitely need veterinary doctors to take care of our livestock.
Yeah.
As it is now, do you think we have enough of our veterinary doctors? And I know that there has been a lot of
issues. And
are
they jackpine too?
Yes, are they jackpine too? We have a lot of issues about doctors leaving the shores of Nigeria and all that. Is there any move by the government to ensure that we have them enough in handy when things move up in terms of our livestock production?
Yes, thank you very much. So one of the things I know the DG is pushing very hard for is, we talked about this infrastructure thing, and we said it's humans that will manage. He is actively proposing that at least across Benue, for instance, we should have a minimum of 2 veterinary doctors manning each local government. The impact would be huge in terms of the quality of animal health. Now, do we have enough numbers? I already established that no. The ratio acceptable is 1 professional to 2,500 livestock farmers. What we have now is sitting somewhere around 75,000 livestock farmers to 1. But again, the animal health ecosystem is not just made up of veterinary doctors. We have what we call veterinary paraprofessionals. So it's like how you have doctors and nurses, and reality or community health workers. If you're going to look at it down to the bottom, you have a higher chance of meeting a community health worker in the medical side in the village than meeting a doctor. So the whole idea is to build competence and strengthen it, and then also increase the level of these professions that are being churned out. Yes, there's also that migratory threat, because a lot of talent is leaving, and rightly so, because if you feel the system is not rewarding enough, talent will naturally gravitate to where it's rewarded. Right? So maybe perhaps to also lend a voice further to say that while we do not have enough, a good number are leaving, but I think we can begin to incentivize the process. If the livestock ecosystem is functioning well, there will be too much to go around, I can show you. And the challenge around the death of animal health professionals is not just a Nigerian thing. If you go to the US, they're telling you that they need more professionals. So we must do everything possible as Nigerians, for instance, to retain the one we have. At Vet Konect, for instance, part of what we are thinking very critically is how can we even ensure our professionals in Nigeria start earning some level of FX? Because there's a huge consultancy gap that needs to be closed. So it's a big problem. So we need to aggressively increase the numbers of professionals, because yes, as these things are put in place, it will naturally open up a big portal where more professionals will be needed in the system. So if it's not, it now put pressure on the few that are there. So it means we need more, maybe the current veterinary schools will need to be able to take up more students that's subject to accreditation, right? And then maybe even establish new ones that's how now we're having dedicated universities for, maybe perhaps a dedicated university for animal health professionals, where you have the veterinary doctors churning out the veterinary professionals, and also that is sufficient to go around. Because as it is now, frankly, for a lot of these challenges around security, there are places some professionals will not go to, you know. So
and I think also the DJ has to react to this. If there is anything in the pipeline as regards getting enough doctors on ground for this project.
Well, already what we have in the country in terms of the number of veterinary doctors is already far below what we take care of the country. Veterinary doctors, the records as at the last count, the records of veterinary doctors we have in the country, those living and dead, is not up to 20,000.
Yeah, wow.
The entire veterinary doctors Nigeria has.
In the country?
Yes, they are less than 20,000. Registered with the Veterinary Council of Nigeria. The number of veterinary doctors that have graduated from university and have registered with the Veterinary Council of Nigeria are less than 20,000, including the dead ones. Some have migrated. So the number is grossly inadequate. But we are hoping that the Veterinary Council of Nigeria and the NUC, the National Universities Commission, as the attention is now turned to livestock development, they will also do a self-retrospect and look at how they can give us the required number of doctors that we need that will drive the livestock industry, because without these people we cannot have the best of what we need, of what we want. So the number is inadequate and we need to do something which is beyond my desk, because the regulatory bodies are the ones that have to do something so that Nigeria can get more number of veterinary doctors. Over the years, the admission quota given to vet schools is quite small. At the moment, there is no vet school in the country that is admitting up to 100 students. And there are some vet schools that are as much as 60 years old. University of Ibadan, ABU Zaria, University of Nigeria and Nsukka, they have vet schools. These are the oldest vet schools in the country. I think their admission quota is barely 80. Uniagric here is over 20 years. Uniagric is about 25 years old now, the vet school. It's about 25 years old. It's still admitting barely 30. That is the quota, the number that is they are given. They are allowed by the Veterinary Council to admit. Some are admitting 50, like University of Maiduguri. They are between 50. So the number is quite small. So I will rather advise that the regulatory bodies step up the number so that we can even bridge the gap of those that are getting old and those that are exiting the system.
Okay, let's talk about challenges. We've been talking about challenges in passing. Of course, in your speaking will be, but we need concretely now. Let's talk about the challenges livestock production has now, or it will have, especially with the tempo you are moving. There are challenges you may have anticipated or you're anticipating. We want to know them now.
Okay, let me start on this note. You see, if you are producing livestock,
yes,
the end result of it is for these animals to be slaughtered. In Benue here, the facilities that we have that will process this meat are in the state of despair. They are not very good to look at. In fact, my facility tour of the slaughter slabs or the slaughterhouses across the state was when what we looked at was not encouraging at all. We are trying to address that problem too, that challenge. A few weeks back, the state government, we signed a memorandum of understanding with Abyss. Abyss are into abattoir construction for them to construct an abattoir for us in Benue here. For a start, we are looking at one in Makudi. But as time goes on, we want to replicate that across the 23 local governments in Benue State so that our people will have access to wholesome meat.
Yeah.
So, if you are raising chicken, they are supposed to end up at the abattoir. From abattoir to our homes for consumption. If you are into piggery, when these pigs are to be processed, they are supposed to visit abattoir. So the abattoir is supposed to be a very clean and healthy environment where the meat that we are supposed to consume will come out clean. But what we have on ground so far, those abattoirs cannot process the wholesome meat that we ought to have access to. So we are working to improve on that. In terms of health delivery in Benue State, there's no functional veterinary clinic across the state. None. 23 local government, there's no functional veterinary clinic. The only functional veterinary clinic or hospital we have in Benue State is the veterinary teaching hospital, which is at North Bank, which is not enough to service the entire state. So we are proposing and still sourcing for funds to construct veterinary clinics across the 23 local government of the state. Because if we are going into livestock development, you cannot go to marry before looking for a bed where you'll be sleeping with your wife. So for livestock to thrive, we first of all have to put in place the machineries that will service the livestock industry. And what are these machineries? These are the veterinary clinics and the doctors that will man these clinics. Because when you have a challenge in the livestock industry, that these challenges that has to do with diseases, which are a major problem, who are you looking up to help solve this problem? You are looking up to veterinary doctors. Where are they? Are there clinics? No, there are no clinics. So these are part of our challenges. We are looking forward to building clinics across the state. We are looking forward to having a conversation with this local government so that as the state builds state clinics across the 23 local government, we want to see how the local government on their own too can build clinics, because it should be a collaborative work, so that together we can achieve what we are looking forward to. So there are a whole lot of challenges that lies ahead of us, but we are not supposed to be putting these challenges before us. We're supposed to be discussing prospect. If we put these challenges more before us, we make some people to run away from this. So we have to be bold about it. We have to be moving with all boldness. So as a matter of fact, we are looking forward that within the next couple of years, maybe a year or two, we'll start having veterinary clinics spring up across the length and breadth of Benue, where our veterinarians will be engaged. They will have a whole lot of veterinarians there. Though the number is not enough, but they are still roaming the street without jobs. They need to be engaged.
The teacher said it really. It's an interesting mix, but I just align with everything he has said entirely. You know, in terms of what the challenges are there, and they need that. While they are there, we have acknowledged them, but let's not dwell on them. I think that's basically what has been his driving force ever since he has been given this assignment.
All right. Maybe this is just on the lighter note. Is there the policy that your office is raising concerning the slaughter of animals, where somebody can just drag a goat behind his backyard and just slaughter it? Are there policies that will be checking that when you want to do this, you take it to the proper place? I know this is what obtains in other climes, that you don't see people carrying knife around and chasing chicken here and there. I don't know if that is part of your policy.
You see, I mentioned something here that we sign an MOU with Abyss.
Yes.
To build abattoir.
Yes.
Because of lack of slaughter houses or slaughter slabs to slaughter these animals, people resort to slaughtering animals anywhere that is convenient to them. When I went around on this facility tour of these slaughterhouses, I discovered that people are even slaughtering animals at the bank of the river. They slaughter there, they wash these animals in an open.
And the way they burn them, shearing them,
and you see, in processing, I spoke to them about, I called a meeting, I had a meeting with them, I spoke to them, and I discouraged them from using old tires to even remove fur or hair on these animals. And I think quite a good number of them have complied with that. If you go around town, you see that every place, every corner within town, they have mounted tables to sell meat. That is not proper. Even the way they convey this meat to their desk is not proper. Some are conveyed on bikes, some are conveyed in wheelbarrows, open. Go to the river there, you see the river banks, you see them washing these animals open in the river. That water, this meat that you are washing openly in the river is the meat that you're supposed to eat. You cannot fish that water and drink. So the water that you cannot fish and drink, you are washing the meat that you want to eat in that river. You will go, you see that sometimes they will be washing it and someone will defecate the other end. You see poo floating on the water. You see them, they will push it to one side and then wash the meat. We have been engaging them. We're trying to discourage them. But you know, because we don't have standard facilities to process this meat, we are a bit constrained. If you go at the entrance of the state secretariat there, you see some are slaughtering animals there. They have opened up one place there. They're using it as an abattoir. If you go along David Mag bypass, close to those malina trees, you see them slaughtering animals there. That is not supposed to be. But we are a bit constrained because the government on its own did not provide the enabling environment where these people can operate. And if you go to these abattoirs, they are even constituting a health hazard to most of these people. There are canals. If you go at the bridge, the head bridge there, you see where they wash their meat. Some canals are there that when they wash this meat, there's no opening for the water to even flow out. So bacteria are accumulating there. There are a whole lot of things. Some of these butchers, some of them are not even tested and screened for some diseases because some of them are carrying diseases that are transmittable. They are supposed to be screened to ensure that maybe you don't have hepatitis. If you have hepatitis, you're not supposed to be transacting in all these things. So these are the whole lot of things that are before us to checkmate. If we are going to livestock development, we're supposed to check our borders to ensure that certain diseases that are having huge impact on the livestock industry, the animals that are being brought in are screened and to ensure that they are free of these diseases. We had an engagement with the Board of Internal Revenue Service, because they already have a livestock checkpoint across the state at the entry point into the state. So we are looking how we can collaborate with them and deploy our people to mount those checkpoints with PRS to be doing livestock inspection to ensure that sick animals are not brought into the state, or even stop them from transiting them across the state to other states. When we enforce this, we'll start going into livestock facilities to check if these livestock facilities have complied with standard biosecurity measures to ensure that we have a safe environment where we can do our livestock business.
And you think we have the required technology for this to checkmate this, the livestock and all that? Do we have the?
We have the technical expertise to do that. The veterinarians that we are going to engage, that is what they are trained to do. So they know the right thing to do when they are at this checkpoint.
All right, time is fast running out, so this will be done quickly. Tell us where the livestock industry will be in the next 20 years. No, maybe 10 years. In Benue and of course Nigeria, the livestock industry.
So yes, I'll be a cautious optimist here, because.
Why are you cautious about it?
Well, caution is important, and as an optimist naturally, that caution helps me. Okay. Because again, I'm a data-driven person, and I know that if we put 1 to 1 and do a couple of needed things like the DJ has been highlighting, we can be able to get somewhere. The sector today is valued by the central bank by 33 trillion naira. It's doing 7 to about 9% contribution to our GDP in a very broken system.
Yeah. But if that statistic is right,
yes.
If it is right,
yes.
All right.
Well, again, this is not my statistics. It's from the NBS. It's from the CBN.
Okay.
So we will have to work with it. We know there are gaps. Now, in a broken system, imagine a system where there's traceability, where our raw, the byproducts from the animals are all harnessed, where the value chain is explored, where the professionals are all engaged, where everybody's getting their bit as it's due to them. I cannot tie a number to it. Okay. But what I know is that it would, in very huge numbers. You see, the thing is, I'm a technology-driven person. I own a tech startup. But I'm still telling you that I am yet to see a sector with the capacity to move people out of poverty at the scale that agriculture can do. You can gather 5,000 young people today in this room and turn them to millionaires in the next 5 months, or 3 months, or 6 months, depending on whatever production cycle you place them on, end to end. But when you bring technology, I can simply just wipe away 5,000 jobs with just one automation. Yeah. So I said cautious optimism because a lot of things needs to be done, and whether it's government, whether it's the private sector, we must find patient capital for the livestock sector. Let me explain. If you look at the data of every dollar that's entered across Africa, if I narrow down to Nigeria in the last 20 years, every $1 that entered, 65 cents goes to crops, 35 to agriculture. I read a policy on agriculture from one of the previous administrations, close to a 60-page document. The comment that was made on agriculture was less than half a page. On livestock was less than half a page. So there has been zero attention to a large extent. So now the tide is turning. First livestock sector, livestock summit in the history of the state. bringing together all of this. The minister took interest and is showing up. We are looking forward to whatever it is that will be heard on that day. But I think it's us sending a message that if we stay on this trajectory, perhaps we'll all rethink the approach or mindset that we have. So I think the future is bright, but we won't get there through wishful thinking. There's going to be a lot of synergy that has to come in. It's a collaborative approach. We must accept that.
Okay, let's hear from you.
Yeah.
DG.
Question
concerning where the livestock livestock production will be in the next 10 years, Benue, Nigeria.
Well, you see, the attention has been turned to the livestock sector in the last 9 months.
Okay.
Before now, the people of Nigeria and the people of Benue were engaging in livestock activities on their own. Now the government has indicated interest to drive the policies and then guide our people on how best they can operate in this industry. So there is hope that within the next 10 years or the coming 10 years, there will be a major turnaround.
All right.
Yes.
You may need to talk to Benue people concerning the summit. What is expected? Quickly, maybe 30 seconds.
Okay. With respect to Benue Livestock Summit, you see this as a game changer for the people of Benue State. We are bringing in everyone that matters in the livestock industry in Nigeria to talk to the people of Benue. We look forward to encourage our people to also participate fully. We are calling on our investors to come to Benue. We are calling on the people of Benue to embrace the Livestock Summit, to come and learn new things about livestock farming. And then for that, we can chart a way forward for our state. And our people also will benefit hugely from this summit. So it's a clarion call to our people to come out en masse and then support this livestock summit and participate fully.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We're looking forward to a more robust conversation in the future. You spoke about technology. I love technology too. Maybe next time you'll be talking about that.
Not a problem.
Thank you for staying with us. This is where we draw the curtains on the show today, Daybreak Benue. And we've been talking about the future of livestock production in Nigeria for economic growth and self-sufficiency. We've been talking to Dr. Aondoakaa Asambe. He's the DG, Bureau of Livestock Development and Transboundary Animal Disease Control. And of course, Dr. Terese Shadrach Akpem is the founder, Chief Executive Officer, Devt Konect Limited. This is what we say. Have a nice day. My name is Stephen Abba.
I am Loretta Okwo, and do have a